Kara? Did you see Cynthia's note that she has to leave fairly early?
I didn't want to jinx us, but I think, this could be. Well, we'll see. I don't want to say it out loud.
I think Paul Aho and I know Paul Aho and I have to leave early as well. We have a meeting at 2, so, or we have to leave right on
Oh,
time.
gosh, I hope we're not an hour with this agenda. That's what I mean. Sean, welcome. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you as well.
Margaret, how many do we need for a quorum?
I don't know offhand.
But we have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think that's a quorum.
I think it is too, and I think Ryan's also on the way, so, and Dale's on, so
And there's Sean.
you're good to go.
Okay,
Okay.
I think I'm chairing, right?
Yes,
Okay.
that's my recollection. I'm pretty sure I did the last one.
Yeah, you did. The minutes say that you did. But then remember, I did 2 in a row, so.
Well, you want me to do 2 in a
No,
row?
no, that's. It's easier if we get on a alternating. So in that regard, it's 1:01 and I am calling this virtual meeting to order. Is there anyone from the public? I understand we were going to have one person, correct, Margaret?
Correct, but I don't see her on yet,
Okay,
so I guess you could decide if she does come to allow her to introduce herself, which I think is all she planned to do.
okay. And then, okay, moving on, first item on the agenda, Sean Dunn is here. He's a UConn student. He is the new USG External Relations Representative to the committee. Many of you know John Hayden. John is actually is going to be the president of USG this year. So John moved into that position, and then Sean moved into the external relations position. We haven't had a chance to give him a briefing. So he's brand new to this committee, but if you want to do a quick introduction, and then we can also do introductions.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Sean. I'm going to be a sophomore at UConn, studying biomedical engineering with minors in political science and math. I've been working with USG since I got onto campus. I was a senator for the School of Engineering, then State Affairs liaison in the External Affairs Committee, and now I'm Director of External Affairs, as you mentioned. So looking forward to the next year. A lot of planning this summer. We're doing some reorganization within USG. So we're going to have 3 subcommittees, sustainability, political engagement, and community affairs. So I hope to, and then there's 3 respective advocacy coordinators coordinating those subcommittees. So I'm hoping to, ease the transition for those hired staff once they're going to be in their role, and then hopefully coordinate more with the town in a greater capacity.
Where'd you grow up, Sean?
Weathersfield, Connecticut, just south of Hartford.
Sure.
What were those 3 committees again? Sustainability,
which will be like a combination of transportation and rec and environmental justice, which were 2 separate subcommittees that were housed in student services. And then there's also political engagement and community affairs. Community affairs, I presume, will be the most tied to Mansfield, dealings with Mansfield and the greater community.
right? Or also the political engagement.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or all of the above, really.
True, true.
It'll be up to you, I think, when we have our meeting. We'll include the mayor, and John Armstrong usually joins us as well to talk through what your personal goals are, and in addition to how the committee works and what we may be able to tap into with you with the student groups. So if we do committee introductions, I'll just go around on the screen. Paul?
You're muted.
You can hear me now, right? Good. Can you hear me now? Yeah,
Yes.
okay. So I grew up as a faculty brat on campus of UConn, and I'm a poultry scientist and chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission for Mansfield.
Great. Mayor Moran?
Hi, I'm Tony Moran. I've been in town, I came as a graduate student back before most of the people on the screen were born. I am the mayor. Mayor has this is a weak mayor system, so I don't write the budget or anything. I just call meetings to order and cut ribbons and appear on lots of committees.
Cynthia?
Hi, I'm Cynthia Van Zelm. I'm the director of the Mansfield Downtown Partnership, maintaining, enhancing downtown stores. And then I also, under a contract with the town, handle economic development townwide. Welcome, Sean.
And Sean, just for your awareness, we have 2 UConn student representatives to the Mansfield Downtown Partnership Board as well. So it would also make sense to make an introduction with you and with them. John Armstrong?
Hi, Sean, welcome. John Armstrong, Associate Dean of Students and Director for Off-Campus and Community Student Services.
Dale?
Hi, Sean. I'm Dale Rose. I was head of the actor training program at UConn for 15 years. I'm now a citizen representative on this committee. So I welcome you. I think there's a lot to work on for the healthy relationship between the university and the community.
Ryan?
Hi, I'm the town manager. Been here 2.5 years, loving every minute of it.
Sean?
He's lying.
Hey,
I know of at least 1 or 2 he didn't like that much.
Hi, Sean. Nice to have a namesake on board. Welcome. My name's Sean Vasington. In addition to being the Director of Site Planning and University Landscape Architect at UConn, I'm also a UConn alum and a resident in town, and also serve on several other committees and boards.
Jennifer?
Hi, Sean, I'm Jennifer Kaufman. I am the town's Director of Planning and Development. I'm also a longtime resident of Mansfield. My husband's a faculty member, and I have 2 daughters that are alumna of UConn. So I look forward to working with USG.
Sergeant Timothy, is that?
Sergeant Tim Merrill. I'm the sergeant here in Mansfield of 8 resident troopers, and then myself makes 9.
And Susanna, are you a guest with us?
I'm a guest and a prospective member of the committee. I believe I'm one of the openings, so I can introduce myself now or whenever it's convenient for you.
Yeah, why don't you do it now? Because it's perfect timing.
2 seconds. Well, longer and 2 quickly. Wear 2 hats like many of you. I have lived in Mansfield since 2009. Before that in Columbia, so been in the region since 2002. I work at UConn. I started part-time in 2003. I have been full-time since 2005. I raised all my kids. We moved to Mansfield just in time for my eldest to join Goodwin as a kindergartner. They all have gone or are going through the system. My oldest is now a freshman at UConn or just finished that. And my twins are entering rising juniors at EO Smith. I have worked in wearing different hats at UConn. I'm currently back at the UConn Library where I do assessment for the library. So I'm very glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to listening in today.
Great, thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
I always say that Mansfield is a company town. And our company is UConn, so that almost everybody in town is related to the university in some shape or form. Either they came here for work or to be a student, or their parents did. Separating one's interests between the town and the university can sometimes be a little complicated. All of us know that if UConn picked up and left, we would be Andover, or not even Andover, maybe Ashford, who knows? But we have a great town, and a lot of it, of the quality of living here, is influenced by the fact that our residents have university-style aspirations and demands. So it doesn't mean that we're all professors, for sure, but the university casts a very long shadow over this town.
Great. So next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from April 11th, John?
Carol, I have an amendment if possible.
Amendment to the agenda
There's
or
two
the amendment to the minutes?
amendment to the minutes. There are two errors that I found in the minutes that I wanted to bring to the group's attention.
Okay, you guys, you always test my Robert's rules. I think, don't we have to first have a motion to approve the minutes, then we have a discussion? Tony, you're on.
There are several ways to do it. If somebody wants to make an amendment, a correction of fact that's relatively minor, you can do that unofficially, but if you want to really do it officially, you have a motion on the floor and then you have an additional motion to amend.
We need to be official here, John. So
I would like to make an emotion. I make a motion to amend paragraph E.
No, we got to start with a motion to approve the minutes. I move we approve the minutes. Now we
Okay,
need
is
a
there a
second.
second? Is there a second to the
Yes,
motion?
Second.
Okay, Paul.
All right,
Is there
now,
a
John.
motion on the floor to amend the minutes?
No,
I have
there
a
is,
motion. I have a motion.
do it.
The link in paragraph E for Res Life policies is incorrect. I tested it. The actual link, I'm putting it in the chat now. The link that's in the minutes is a dead link.
So that's actually in the update section, letter E.
Correct. Other updates or progress to reports. I would just like to change that link to add the link I put in the chat to the correct link that brings to, the question was cost of housing for graduate students on campus. The link that I provided gives information directly to the cost of housing living on campus. The link that's in the minutes is incorrect.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion?
And so where do we find that link, the correct link?
I just put it in the chat, Dale.
Oh, okay, thank you.
But it will ultimately be in the final minutes when Margaret resends us.
Yeah.
Or when you post the final minutes onto the website, the corrected link will be in there.
Good.
If you're looking for it after.
Oh, well, I was looking for it then, and exactly what John is saying right now. I understand now why I couldn't get the information.
Okay. Okay,
I have a second motion.
a second motion to amend the minutes?
Yes.
Okay,
The
Yeah.
paragraph below paragraph E or section E, where it starts J. Armstrong, second sentence, I think it should say and that spring weekend is in 2 weeks. It says in 2 weeks.
That's a technical correction. We don't need a motion to do that. We can just do it.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay, then I think we will vote. Is there all in favor of approving the minutes from April 11th
As amended.
as amended? Aye. Sean,
Aye.
Aye.
Jennifer, anything?
I don't think I'm a voting member. I think I'm considered staff.
Any no's or abstentions? Okay, minutes, motion passes, approve of the minutes. So next is updates from Town of Mansfield. Jen and or Ryan.
Let Jen start off.
Great. So things continue to be very busy in Mansfield. Excuse me, starting on June 20th, we do have a public hearing for 497 Middle Turnpike, which is a 262 unit multifamily development at the former golf course along Middle Turnpike near west of Cedar Swamp Road and just north of Birch Road. We expect to have a public hearing in the near future for the Villages at Four Corners, which is the redevelopment of the vacant portion of Toast at Four Corners. Again, Toast, Hops 44, the gas station will remain. They are proposing to add some about 12,000 of retail and commercial space and 116 units of multifamily housing. We have a wetlands public hearing for approximately 450 units on King Hill Road, both sides of the street. And that they have a wetlands permit in. Their public hearing is tentatively scheduled for July 17th. And then we keep continuing 2 public hearings for 541 and 555 Middle Turnpike. Again, those are approximately combined 120 units of multifamily housing and a tiny bit of retail / commercial. So that's really it for, not just it, but that's for development. I did want to, if I could share my screen, I wanted to share our new website, or fairly new website, Mansfield Tomorrow, which is, we have a number of different planning initiatives. The Parks and Recreation Master Plan, which I think we've talked about in this meeting before, and I believe some of you were involved in one of our early meetings. We have a facilities master plan that's happening right now to look at several of the facilities, including this municipal campus and what we're going to do with our vacant schools and several other, our senior center, the public works garage, other facilities. And then most importantly for this group is the Northwest Mansfield Neighborhood Plan. That is really to talk about what folks want to see in this area. And we've identified the area as sort of the area west of 320 and then east of the Yukon property, Honey Lodge Road area, the Hillendale area. So basically all of this area in green is the study area. For all 3 of these planning initiatives, we will be having a community open house on Tuesday, July 11th. That's kind of the first of many ways we're going to be outreaching to the community for these 3 plans, and specifically Northwest Mansfield. The bulk of the community engagement for the Northwest Mansfield plan will happen this fall, and they will be reaching out to students and folks at UConn to really sit down with you. There'll probably be some interviews and just to kind of get your perspectives. So I'll stop sharing, and that's all I have now.
I have a question more so in relation to what is the relationship with, so I'm a Wellington resident, many of you know, I only live 5 miles from here though, but also live near several of these apartment complexes. And I was just curious, how often do you talk to the Wellington? Because I know your map cuts off actually right about where I live, actually.
Sure.
But as I know, Ryan and the mayor will be having more conversations with the president about housing in general and all these new developments. I'm also curious how often we incorporate some of the other towns that also have these apartment developments.
So
Do you keep in touch with them, or how does that work?
Whenever there's an application within 500 feet of an adjoining town, we're required to notify them. So most of these applications are not within 500 feet of Wellington. I believe the zone change at Timber Drive that was denied, adjacent to Timber Drive that was denied, that was referred out to Wellington. We often do courtesy notifications to adjoining towns, but other than that, as a planning staff, we don't formally meet with Wellington. However, the planner, the consultant that the town works with, Tyke, does planning in Wellington, so they're very familiar with what's happening in our towns. So to answer your question.
Okay, thanks. Any questions?
Jennifer, I understand there was a meeting last night about the development at the golf course, and the person I spoke to was felt it was very disingenuous, and I'm wondering what your take on the event was.
Well, I was at the town council meeting, as most of the staff on the, so I did not attend. And it was really, my understanding is that it was just the developer invited neighbors and interested folks to Wellington Pizza to kind of review the application. I think they're just there to tell them what they're doing. I mean, the applicants are progressing with their application. They're responding to peer reviewer comments, to comments from advisory committees, and there will be a public hearing on June 20th where everyone can kind of officially put their comments on the record. So I hope that we get a lot of feedback.
And
So
is
I'll
this
just say I'm not
designed-
exactly sure how many people were there, and I don't know the exact details of that event.
Is this designed to be student housing?
This is this development is 3 different building types. So I would say of all of them that are coming in, this would be the least likely to be student housing. They've got apartment style units, townhouse units, what they call mansion style units. It's kind of tucked away. They will be deeding, their proposal is to deed almost 25 acres of open space that is contiguous with about almost 6.5 acre parcel that the town got from a subdivision back in 2006, I think. So we, per fair housing, we can't, if students want to live there, they have to, but I think in terms of the market, and the layout is all online. You'll see that the layouts are the design review panel was pleased with them, so.
And this is different from the development that's on North Eagleville that we've been referring to as the King Hill development, which is, as I have heard from these folks, is clearly designed for student housing.
That is correct.
Okay.
They're 2 completely different. Yeah, the one on King Hill is, it's a redevelopment of that area, a full redevelopment of both sides of the street, which is an area that I think it's going to be a different gateway for sure.
And I know I've referenced it before, but maybe Jennifer, for the minutes and for the chat and for those that may be new, can you put the link to your website that has all these projects outlined in it?
Yeah, I just got we just updated it and it should be live, but Sean just said that maybe it's not working. Let me see here. Yeah, no, I have it here. It's slow to, I'll put it in the chat though. It's very slow.
Any other questions for Jennifer? Sean, sorry, I didn't see your hand up. You're muted.
Thanks, Kara. Jen, I clicked on the development map link from the Mansfield Tomorrow website or the planning and development page. Maybe that's why it's not loading for me. The story
Okay.
map site.
Yeah,
And I'll just add, Kara, that I appreciate the town really stepping up and being very transparent with the plans and having a dedicated site that makes it easy for all of us to see what's going on and where and when. As it relates to the former golf course site, I'm just curious, should we expect any changes to Route 44 by way of turn lanes or traffic signals in that general area?
I don't believe they're going to be adding a crosswalk so folks can access the sidewalk there. But right now we're kind of finalizing the traffic. We had mentioned to them that we would like to see the the inlet and outlet align with Birch Road, but I'm not sure that's going to be possible. But I don't believe there's going to be a stoplight or anything like that. But that will be determined by DOT and because it is.
Yeah, I imagine they'd have to do some sort of review with OSTA.
Yeah, they will. Yep.
Okay, thank you, Jen.
Sure.
John Armstrong has his hand up too.
John?
I just want to make a point of clarification about our delineation of some of the housing that's being built. We're referring to it as student housing. And student housing is built on campuses. We build student housing on campus. The housing that's being built external to campus is our rental apartment complexes that anyone can live at. This is not something that is exclusive for students. And I think it's a point that I just want to be careful when we use that terminology in this meeting.
Thank you, John. That's a really good point. And it's a point that we make very often to all of our boards and committees, that this is designed for anyone. We can't, the only one who can kind of limit who lives in a place is UConn or a private, I think UConn in Mansfield anyways.
As we look at the landscape across Mansfield now, there are, at my last count, around 14 separate apartment complexes. One owns 5 separate apartment complexes. In many of those, it's mixed populations. These are students and citizens that live there year round. So I just wanted us to caution us about using that terminology.
Thank you. Yeah, I've actually been in several meetings where I've had to make that same clarification. Mayor?
The only reason I used it is that, in fact, the developer used the term.
It should not be. That's incorrect. I'm not sure why they're using that terminology, which says that they're gearing and marketing directly towards students, which is inaccurate. Anyone can live there at any point. And I hope that we can correct them on that.
I know several people have to leave and I jinxed us at the beginning, so we're gonna keep moving. Cynthia, you're next on the agenda.
Thanks, Kara. Some updates. It's busy season for us in terms of events, but we have some other things going on as well. So the partnership board held its annual meeting last week at the Connecticut Repertory Theater. It was a great night, chance for people to see each other again. We had a tour of the new production facility. I think a good time was had by all. So I want to thank UConn's Repertory Theater for its hospitality and again, School of Fine Arts being such a great partner to the partnership for 20+ years. In terms of events, we do have a canceled concert tonight. So Tuesday is the date when concerts get canceled the week before that we hold them. So that's 6:30 to 8 on Betsy Patterson Square, which means we have 2 concerts this week. So we have another one on Thursday, same time, and encourage everybody to come out. We have a great lineup this year, which is on our downtownstores.org website. We have our first dance party, which is June 24th at 7 o'clock from about 7 to 9:30 on the square. It will be the Little Big Band performing. We will have dance lessons, 2 different times for dance lessons. So hopefully we'll see people for that. That's Saturday, June 24th. We start our movies the first Friday in August. So it's the first 3 Fridays, excuse me, around dusk that we start the movies, and we have some activities for the youth ahead of time to kind of make it an even bigger event. So those are our events. The partnership board is continuing its socials with our downtown businesses. We've had several this year. We hope to have one in August. So just trying to keep up the communication with our businesses downtown. We have our property owners continuing to work hard on a couple of leases, so stay tuned on that. So putting my economic development hat on, the EDC has started its subcommittee on business outreach and support has started business visits again. So a couple of members have been out already. This is something that when John McGuire was the chair was very, very diligent about getting out and meeting with businesses. So we've resurrected that program. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and Margaret's a big part of this, and Kathleen Patterson, our senior communications manager, is securing the front page for the Chronicle Summer Fun and Dining Guide. And there's an article about Mansfield in the guide. We're working on getting that out. There's Margaret's got it right there if you can, yeah, I don't know if it's blurred out, but anyway, we'll be getting more of those out. They'll be regionally distributed by the Chronicle, and then between Margaret, Kathleen, and myself, we'll be getting those out to real estate offices, the Adventure Park, the Graduate, our B&Bs, etc. This is really well, both insular, I guess insular is the right word, for our community, but also outside our community, which goes along with our theme of trying to get more people to move here, more businesses to come here. So thank you, Margaret, for all your work on that. Working with Ryan and others, a staff team and 3 artists, we are doing a first review of the art concepts that was funded by the town council out of the ARPA funds for public art outside. So we'll be working on that. And then the top concepts will be asked to submit a proposal. So working our way through that approval process. Connecticut's Countryside, which Kara and Ryan are involved with, which is the collaboration between Mansfield, Coventry, Tallinn, and Bolton. We have brochures that are printed now promoting the area, and we need to pick them up in the Coventry Planning Office soon. We also are working with Dorner Callenbach on a video, and I just got the outline for the video. But hopefully that filming will take place in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be promoting that as well. I think that's all I had, unless there are any board members on the call that would like to provide any further updates.
Not me. Any questions for Cynthia?
I have a question. This is a curious question and something I've been interested in for years. Has there been any recent communication with the Greek church and the outside theater about possible usage? I know there needs to be renovation in order for that to happen, but I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I don't know what the latest, Dale, is in terms of their finishing up that project. I know there was a group that wanted to use it this
Mhm.
month, and I believe they've moved over to a place at UConn, so I'm assuming that it's not ready. You know, the museum is beautiful, that's been started as well, so
No.
I don't know. I don't know, Ryan, if you have any other updates through sort of the building official process or.
No, I haven't received an update from the building department on that project in a while. I know that there was a period of time, maybe sort of starting the second half of my first year here, because I think there was a plan and it got scuttled, but I know they were gearing up for a major event, right? There was going to be like a gathering marking. I don't understand, and I'm not remembering what we were to be commemorating, but basically it was going to have a lot of dignitaries, and there was a push, I think, to get the project as close to the proverbial finish line at that time. And I think that all kind of stalled out. All I know is that there have been a lot of fits and starts with the projects, a lot of having to kind of circle back and address issues that have arisen. And I haven't heard anything more about it in a while. I don't know if there are status updates. I'm probably overdue for an update on it.
I would just love to volunteer if there's anything that I can offer to find out how to move forward on this, what grant funds there may be available. I've already talked to the designer in theater to see if they can at least give a cost estimate of what it would be to recover the floor with a wooden floor that can be allowed for dance, et cetera, and what the cost would be for, like a movie set studio trailers that would have bathrooms, et cetera, in them, which is a big problem right now that's not available.
Yeah, I do know they've received several state grants. I think
Mhm.
most recently a couple of years ago. But as Ryan said, I don't know. I can certainly talk to Elias. He's, a member of the partnership
Right.
and a friend, so I can check in with Elias and see where things are.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely, want to work with you, Dale, and School of Fine Arts too. It's such a great partnership. It would be.
Yeah, I just think it's a beautiful facility to have a summer festival of a variety of things, whether it's jazz, dance, and a variety of cultural events, and reaching out not only to this area, but beyond, to know that there's something that's very special happening there. Seating and stuff, you can get those are easier. So there's a little bit of cushion seating for $1.50 each or whatever you want to do. But I've been involved in these kind of venues in my past. And so that's why I just would like to see if there's anything I can offer.
Yeah, let me do a little legwork. I do know Elias is sometimes in Greece for periods of time. So, but I'll reach out to him by email and see what I can find out.
Okay.
And Ryan, I'll circle back with you and Kara as well.
Did you have your hand up, John?
Cynthia, just real quick, you had mentioned something about vacancies or challenges with some vacancies. Can you expand on that a little bit, please? You mentioned vacancies. Was that with the Oaks or was that with businesses in Store Center?
Yeah, I think what I said is that there's continued negotiations going on some spaces. So I think, we're hoping that there'll be some announcements from the property owners shortly. There's been some more movement more lately than there had been on some of the spaces. So.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, moving on, Sean, construction updates.
Yeah, thanks, Kara. I'm going to share my screen. I know by the end of May, it was Ilias's target to have the remaining granite pieces that were delivered at the end of February, which I think was the last grant component from DECD. The hope was to have that all finished installation by the end of May. So it is timely to reach out to him and see see where they stand. He described it in late February as the last significant work in terms of large pieces to get the museum and the amphitheater up to snuff. Let's see. Okay, can you see my screen?
Not yet, Sean.
Not yet?
No,
Okay. How about now?
you can see it now. It's coming.
Okay, that's Jennifer's beautiful map.
There it is.
Not as beautiful, but here's our map of construction activity. It's a Google map. Many of you have seen it before. I'll just walk through a couple of updates. So I've got the summer 2023 session clicked on, and the future semesters and sessions clicked off. You can go in and toggle these on and off to see what we're planning in the out months. So we have the large residence hall and dining hall project that's been mobilized on South Campus for a number of months now. It remains on schedule. Of note, on schedule meaning it's scheduled to be open for the fall 2024 semester for those new on the call. It had some enabling work ahead of it, including the house relocation, which is this parcel here. This house that is inside the residence hall site was moved over in front of this residence hall temporarily and is now scheduled to move to its new foundation on, I believe it's a Monday, July 10th. Kara will be on site on her lawn chair if anybody would like to join her for tea. It should be fun to watch it cross the street and get put on its foundation. We have made some progress with DEP on the Bear Lake Improvements project that was deferred back in late December. It is scheduled to mobilize by right around the time the residence hall opens, around August or September of 2024. And I just toggled that semester on so you can see that what was a very large construction site that wrapped the entire lake is now pretty much limited to the dam itself. It'll be a dam safety and compliance project, and that was due to the budget allocation being reduced in December. So we worked through some about 7 meetings with DEEP to come up with a plan that satisfied the compliance and safety issues for stormwater in the dam. The large portion of the project that is now that was deferred due to budget is the dredging of the lake. So that project will not be entering the lake to do any dredging other than right along the dam boundary. Later this summer, we will be mobilizing the first phase of the infrastructure project in the same neighborhood here, and we'll have several road closures as the phases of that infrastructure project wind up and wind down over the course of the next 12 to 18 months. The first one will be a closure of this portion of Gilbert Road that you see with the red line, and traffic will be routed down Mansfield Road, up Whitney Road to get around the red line and exit back out onto Gilbert Road. Later in the fall, I'm sorry, whoops. Later in the fall, we'll also be closing part of Coventry Road and Maple Lane, all of Coventry Road and Maple Lane through the fine arts area. So that will not be a cut through for E.O. Smith drop-offs, morning drop-offs. Unfortunately, it does help with the congestion on 195 that folks cut through our campus, but that won't be available to parents. So we'll let the superintendent and the school know, as we normally do with any traffic changes in that neighborhood. It's not mapped right now, but we're also anticipating some work in 195 that's project that's currently being permitted that will reduce one of the turn lanes because we are going to close Mansfield Road as well during part of this project. So more to come on that. The map will be updated once we have a definitive plan, but it will create some changes to the lanes on 195 we're anticipating, because those turn lanes won't have a road to turn onto and will be used for construction traffic only. Kara, I think that does it. And I'll leave some time for questions if there are any.
Sean, that Mansfield that you were just referring to, that's in the summer though, correct?
It might have shifted all the way to the summer. There is some work in 195 with the utility crossing that's going to happen soon. And we've already cleared some trees across the grass here to get to basically Shippey. But that's just limited to that specific area, 195. The Mansfield Road closure might wait until next summer.
Oh, okay.
The other road that you're mentioning that goes behind Fine Arts, will that be permanently closed or that's just during construction?
That's just during construction. I think that opens back up by the spring. Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Sean, do you have some, is there a way to get some power to the lake to run those fountains again? I can lend you an extension cord if you need one.
Oh, that must be Paul. I don't see him, but I hear the voice. I know Paul. It's very sad. So the fountains were connected to Whitney House. They were connected to a circuit at Whitney House, and so when that happened, we lost power. We do have a project set up. We just got funding for it last week that'll incorporate re-energizing the fountains from probably Manchester Hall. So maybe it'll dry up in the meantime and we won't need to worry about it as much, but it wasn't looking so great a couple of rainstorms ago.
Mayor?
Sean, would you talk a little bit about the Whitney House?
Only that is still standing. We expect that we'll enter a SEPA process on it in the next month or two, and there'll be a public meeting associated with it.
And your plan is to take it down.
Our intention is to take it down.
Is there any way to save parts of it, or is there anything you can salvage out of it that would be of historic value?
I don't think so, but I'm not really the expert on that. Based on my own perspective on the pictures I've seen and the renovations that have occurred more contemporaneously, there's not a lot of historic integrity inside the building.
Okay, thank you.
John, I may have missed if you said something because he made the mistake of multitasking for a second there. But did you say anything about Mansfield Apartments? What the latest?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not. So Mansfield Apartments, sorry, Ryan, I thought I covered last time, but in case I didn't, Mansfield Apartments was scheduled to enter construction, but got deferred for a year. It's in redesign also because of budget constraints. Right now, we're anticipating that it may be about 150 or so less beds than was originally designed and permitted. We think it will be 3 to 4 buildings still, but singles will be doubles, and the footprint is changing. So I just attended the first redesign meeting this past week and got a flavor of what's coming. So it's going to be a different development, I think, primarily concentrated on the east side of the property, where the previous development made its way all the way to the western side of the property. So we'll see how it goes. They're still moving all the pieces around to see how things fit. How those rooms get laid out now as doubles as opposed to singles changes the way the building comes together.
So if memory serves correct, it was 900 or 900 plus beds. It's sort of so. Do you have? I mean, I know it's squishy at best, but do we have a sense of what it might be being scaled back to? Is it 700?
Yeah, you're right.
Is
I think you're right. I think it's about 920. So right now I think it's tracking about 150 less.
Okay, so still north of 700 beds anyway, so it's.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thanks. And then I was, well, obviously, I mean, well, before I go on to the next, I was just gonna say, this is definitely a project that, given the adjacency to the, town hall and the community center and just that whole intersection of interest and pedestrian safety, we obviously, you're a great communicator, but I guess every twist and turn with this project along the way, just don't want to be surprised by anything, kind of fully up to speed on the latest vision for the project. Shifting gears, is there any update, anything that can be shared on the old correctional facility property that the Wyndham Tech concept? I think demo continues to progress down there, but didn't know if there was any substantive updates.
Yeah, so before we leave Mansfield, I'll just note that tomorrow the landscape contractor will be back on site to mow the edges of the tall grass that was behind the fence. If they weren't out there today to take care of fence remnants and sandbags and some signage, that'll also get all cleaned up. And then I passed on the note, Ryan, that we don't necessarily need a weekly mow out here once the ground that just got seeded fully germinates, that it's okay for it to be a little bit wild and see what pollinators pop up.
Yeah.
But it'll be more or less as you see it for the next year is the plan.
I think the bees will appreciate to slightly reduce mowing frequency.
That could be. So I'll move all the way over to Depot. In the former Bergen Correctional Facility. So Ryan, there's no active demolition out there that I know of. There is incomplete demolition that you can even see was started in this Google image that was being done by DAS at the time, or DCS at the time, and our facilities folks.
Yeah, I guess it might have been, I was by there a few days ago and I convinced myself that what I thought I saw was maybe some fresh demo piles or whatever, but
yeah. We are staging soil there for one of our
Okay.
construction projects, and that's occurring in this general location here. We've been told, our teams have been told, last update was a couple of weeks ago, that we can continue to use the site till at least this time next year. So that says to me that we're not expecting any other project mobilizing out there.
Okay, so I guess the short answer is, to the extent that anybody is seeing activity there, it's just being used as a staging ground for other projects.
That's correct.
Okay.
And shuttle parking for the contractor workforce.
But no active work being done in furtherance of the Wyndham Tech concept or any other concept at this point. It's just, okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Related to that though, and it's been a while because it went back and forth. Is this even our land anymore? I thought this is DAS's. Didn't they take it back from us?
I don't know if that has been finalized, Kara, but there was a number of acres that was to be conveyed.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember now. It's been a while. If there was something in the information circulated that the change in ownership was kind of contingent on the Wyndham Tech project actually happening, and so maybe the transfer of the land is still kind of in limbo until that happens. I'm not sure, but.
Margaret, just as an informational, John Armstrong is that phone number. Sean, you're sharing still, I think.
Oh, all the amphitheater stuff.
You're in private browsing. Maybe.
Nothing to hide.
Any other questions for Sean?
How
So
about
the
we
next-
end it? Oh, go ahead.
You're still sharing. So the next item, there you go. with summer fall campus plans, I had shared, this is more just a general update about how things are going. John was going to speak to that on the phone. John? Maybe not.
Where'd you go?
Well, he's on the phone.
Oh, but muted.
Margaret, do you have him muted somehow? No? He said, can you unmute me? Let me see if I can I I can't do anything. You have the controls.
You can head over to.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello? Oh, great. I don't know what happened. I lost all my Wi-Fi on campus. It's so strange. So I can give a little bit of an update of what's happening over the summer. We're in the middle of orientation. Orientation started at the end of May. It will run a little bit longer than normal. We're going to run through July 20th, which will be a reserve session to accommodate the increased number of students that have been invited to campus. As folks know, May 1st was the national acceptance deadline. On that date, we started to look at numbers for the fall. And so, Kara, I don't have identified or known information right now in terms of specific incoming first-year students that have been invited and accepted, but we have extended our orientation services a little bit later than normal, probably about a week longer than what we typically see in the summertime. Other than that, we are working towards, I will say from my office in particular, I've seen some staff changes and also in the Division of Student Affairs, we're seeing some changes as well. Michael Gilbert, Vice President for Student Affairs, will be leaving his position in August. And at this point, the future is somewhat uncertain in terms of the reorganization of student affairs, if there even will continue to be a student affairs or its name will be changed to identify what we will all be doing and what offices will look like. From my office in particular, I have lost 2 FTEs, 2 full-time employees, and those currently have not been refilled. So at this point, planning for the fall is on hold, but I will update the group hopefully by August. With other things that I could report on that might be helpful for the group.
I have a question, John.
Sure, of course.
Just about how there is folks in my office have UConn sophomores, and just wondering, there seems to be a lot of students that aren't qualified or aren't be given on-campus housing. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Sure thing. So first-year students coming onto our campus, guaranteed housing. So if we have, the number of first-year students we have, if it exceeds 4,000, which it most likely will, all of those students are guaranteed housing, with the exception of students that have put in some type of residency exception. That may include military, it may include proximity to campus. There are about 4 to 5 factors that residential life looks like that will exclude them. Ultimately, it will result in around 300 students that don't live in on-campus housing, which is pretty typical. Students that are upcoming sophomores, juniors, seniors, students that are saying they're not getting on-campus housing, it's for one of 2 reasons. One, if they were living in on-campus housing last fall and into the spring, it means they missed a deadline. Given the number of students that have already gone through our on-campus housing selection process and the number of incoming first-year students, we have a finite number of beds on campus. It is the chances of a student who missed deadlines to get back into on-campus housing are relatively slim. So we put the students that were living in on-campus housing, that secured housing on campus, along with our first-year students. That brings us up to around 8, maybe 9,000 students. That gives us about 3,000 beds to work with some flexibility needed in that number. So if a student says, I can't get on campus housing, I'm a sophomore or junior, it's because of 1 or 2 reasons. They already lived off campus, they're a transfer student, or they missed a deadline. So one of those three reasons, and if it's one of those three reasons, they are waitlisted. And then the waitlist, they may not get to them until late July, maybe sometime in August. Jennifer, I hope that helps answer the question.
It does. Thank you. I
Okay.
have to jump off for a Planning and Zoning Regulatory Review Committee meeting, but thank you all. These are always really informative. So we'll see you in a few months.
Bye, Jennifer.
Any other questions for?
I do. First, I would like to thank John for working with me about some off-campus situations with students that were maybe fall under the nuisance ordinance. But I was particularly surprised when I found out in the one house that I'd like to bring up right now on 44 Birchwood Heights, that there was never a citation to those renters or ultimately to the landlord. And I know that there was at least 6 times in the year that police have been called to be at that property. Whether there was obviously there was no citation, because that was clear when I talked with Mike. So I just wonder, what is the process that goes through? Because it's, I mention this because I'm very disturbed, because there was a new faculty member who was staying with me for a couple of days to find housing for he and his wife. And there were these parties going on at 70 Birchwood Heights and 44 till 3 in the morning. And he says, there's no way I'm living here. And he ends up moving to Rocky Hill or something. And I don't want to lose these people who are important, and to find out how to harmonize the situation with the students off campus and the community, so that there is a very good relationship, and one that, if I can use the word trustworthy, that everyone is involved in understanding what it is to be in the community, whether you're renting or whether you're a homeowner.
Gil, I can start, and then I'm gonna, if Sergeant Merrill is still on the phone, I will have him respond to the nuisance tickets, or issuing of any tickets or response, because the university would not be the first responder for a party or a social gathering that
I understand.
it comes to a complaint. So what I will say is, in this situation, I was fortunate. I was fortunate in that I knew the landlord, contacted the landlord. The landlord was very involved in the discussions with me, with the students. One of the challenges we face in many different facets of the university when working with students is that when we make outreach to a student or ask to meet with them, we cannot require them to meet with us really at any point. Even through our conduct process, if a student is close to being expelled from the university, they can choose to say, I'm not going to be involved, and we may make a decision without them. In the case where we have students living in a property, I do not have their names, I'm not able to identify who they are, outreach to them is challenging. In this case, the landlord did not provide me names of the students. Going to the address did not yield me meeting with a student or getting a student's name. This was one that became frustrating. And when there is not an engagement by the state police are wonderful about when they receive a complaint, going to the address and making an assessment of, does this fall within the threshold of a noise complaint or a nuisance issue? And if it does not, we are not going to receive a referral. It does not mean that I don't engage with students if and when I can. And in this case, I was not able to. So the communications I had with the landlord, I had hoped that they had communicated with the students. They said that they had. This is not the first time a landlord has made outreach to their tenants, and the tenants have continued to persist. So with that context, I will hand it over to Sergeant Merrill.
Okay, thanks, John. I appreciate it. I've worked pretty well with John, and Birch we are familiar with. We have been called over to Birch several different addresses over there. I don't have any statistics or call sheets or anything like that as far as number of times, frequency or anything like that at this point right now. However, I will tell you, typically we have a threshold of, we respond to a scene, cooperation. Obviously, we take into account previous incidents, what the situation is. Lots of times, depending on where you live in Mansfield, sounds can carry. And lots of times the sound is inappropriate. We address it. We make arrests. We give tickets. We give verbal warnings. There's several different avenues that we have. And Birch in particular, we have been out several times and we have issued verbal warnings. We have issued tickets. And I can't tell you, like I said, in particular, how many times we've issued any tickets this year or last year or verbal warnings, but I have gone to Birch myself twice and 2 separate houses, and both the times respectful. It was a party both times. However, it wasn't the typical party that I know you're probably referring to, Dale, where there's hundreds of kids or, 50 to
40
100 or
cars,
something.
yeah.
Right, yeah, exactly. So I think unfortunately the times that I went were 2 of the atypical times that you're not referring to, where, I'll just give you one example. One time it was a birthday party with, 25 kids and confirmed it, cooperated, turned the music down, and we went on our way. That's not typically something that the state police would just go in and issue everybody tickets when somebody's cooperative. And we've confirmed that this isn't some type of underage drinking party that, typically we're mostly talking about, or some party where they just have no regard for the community members. And the way the nuisance ticket to work is it's repetitive violations where tickets are issued within a certain time period. So for example, if, we get a phone call and it's in September, and then the next phone call is December, and then the final phone call is May, that's unfortunately not within the town guidelines where it would exceed further down the road. It has to be a certain parameter time frame within the nuisance statute. And, we all know that typically the renters for Yukon are usually when from September to May, give or take their agreement. And then new staff comes in sometimes, or new tenants come in. So that's part of the issue as well. And we have worked with John as far as talking with homeowners and stuff like that, even though they are new students coming in. So, I mean, we would continue to work with you, Dale, and, the street. And one of our biggest things that we found when I have looked up the statistics for it is that lack of calling the state police. I do get complaints from people and they say, hey, listen, last year we had 3 parties, and I look in our events and we got 1 phone call. So we're not going out there driving on every single street every single night saying, oh, let's proactively shut this house down with 5 cars. We're very reasonable. We want to help the community. We want to help you, want to help your street. We do need the phone calls though. We don't get enough of them to kind of support the data, which I understand what you're saying. It makes sense to me. And, but when we don't get the phone calls and people tell us after the fact, there's not much I can do when, hey, they say a month ago they were loud, so. But we'll continue to work with you and we'll continue to do that, so.
I'm not just representing my street, because I'm talking to people in Meadow Lane or Morningside, who said that they've moved because this is another issue, just because all the properties around them were sold to landlords, and then ultimately they became students. And it's a matter of like, okay, there's a party this week or someplace else, there's another one this week, this time it's loud. And sometimes it's just a matter that people are afraid to say anything. They're certainly afraid to go over and knock on the door and say, can you hold it? things that are happening in the world right now or in the United States where someone gets blown away. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but it gets scary. And for
Dale?
those people who are past their midlife, it's very scary.
Dale, we have been wrestling with this problem at least since I got on the council in 2009. And what we have been saying to residents over and over and over again is call the police. Call the police. And also what we have been saying is on the days when there are no parties and when everybody is sober, go over and introduce yourself and explain the problems that these parties are causing. What we have, or what John has found, is that when the police are called and when he goes out there, it is usually true that that house does not have a party again. I will tell you, there are about 25 houses in town where it is a recurring problem. But it really requires some activity on the part of the town. The police don't come because they're touring the town. They come because somebody has called and complained. And that is that we really have to get people to do that. And we also have to say to people, you have to call the police, but these are some of the best young people in the state, right? You need to go talk to them when they're sober.
Yeah,
And when you're
Mara,
sober.
thank you so much for saying that. I agree, because the first thing that happens when if anyone is consuming alcohol is the ability to reason correctly goes. And we've had some situations where neighbors have gone and spoken to students that had been drinking, and it sometimes it doesn't end well. And I have encouraged students to not reach out to their neighbors and say, because what they do is, for some students, they're using it for leverage. They'll contact their neighbors and say, please call us before you call the police. I really don't want that, neither does Sergeant Merrill. Our preference is that the police are called first. The police engage when they feel it's need to, or if a neighbor feels there is an issue that's impacting their quality of life. This is as frustrating a situation for me as it is for citizens living in communities. And something you said, Dale, is impactful, and that is that rentals can occur anywhere in the town of Mansfield with very little exceptions. So in communities that have not seen rentals or students living in them, probably will soon, because so many houses are going up for sale and they're made into conversions. Nothing really restricts that from happening. The challenge we also see at UConn is we don't require students. We ask that they do this, and we put a lot of stopgaps into our student admin, asking them to put a local address in. We don't have defined ways of identifying where a student lives once they move off campus. That's something I have worked on for years, but we're still not at that point. So when I get a complaint, one of the first things I need to do is identify, is this a UConn student? I've gone to houses where it's not been a UConn student. I've gone where it's been an Eastern student or a citizen. And with those challenges is I've got to talk with a student. But as the mayor indicated, when I get students and talk with them and talk about if this continues, this is where it's going to go, we see a lot of success in that. It's the challenge is getting to those students, identifying who they are, and then getting them together as a group. The missing link in all of this always has been, will continue to be, is you mentioned partnerships that work. But many landlords will not engage in this process and say that's up to the police, it's up to UConn to deal with in town of Mansfield. They will not engage, they will not help, they will not communicate with their tenants, and that's a problem. So maybe in 5 to 10% of these cases, I have landlord involvement, the rest, no response.
I also want to add
that landlords are.
wait a minute, I want to add a couple of other things, Dale. This is a national problem. This
Yes,
business,
I know.
'cause there are corporations buying up single-family houses everywhere to rent to students. One of the reasons that we have supported the multifamily housing developments immediately off campus is that we want students to live in housing that is close to campus and not in residential neighborhoods. Particularly if they're going to rent for the purpose of partying, let them rent close to campus, let them rent in apartment houses.
Which, Mayor, I just want to say brings up a great point, is that when as we begin and continue to build apartment complexes, I have more data to support that shows students will prefer to stay in single-family rentals, especially organizations. But I also will say that as these new apartment complexes are being built and constructed, they're being built and constructed and they're asking for lease. And this is a question I have for the town of Mansfield is, are we asking these properties how much they're going to be charging for rent? The new properties that are coming online, apartment complexes, will be restricted to 3 unrelated renters, no more than that. And so with that, that becomes a cost prohibitive measure for students to say, I can live here. 4 makes it a little more digestible. A 2-bedroom unit, 4 people. In the case of new apartment complexes, they're going to be restricted to 3. And that's one of the challenges we're seeing at some of the apartment complexes now, is that they're so expensive, they're not going to fill their beds.
One of the things that planning and zoning had been talking about earlier on, and I don't know where this discussion has gone, has been raising the maximum for housing to 4 for well-managed multifamily housing.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that's going. The other thing
I
I
would
want
fully
to say
support that, Mayor.
yeah,
I
one
would
of the
fully
other
support
things,
that, Mayor.
one of the other things I want to point out is once the university becomes involved with the student, because of FERPA, you will not know if there has been any disciplinary action taken because it is not possible to get any kind of information on even how many people are being have been disciplined in one form, one way or another. We have
That's
run up
correct.
against this every year, and I'm John
That
to
is correct.
clarify.
Yeah, that is correct. It is, even to say that we've met with the students is a violation of the Federal Rights and Privacy Act. Anytime we engage with a student, meet with a student, talk with a student, it becomes part of their protected educational record. And so when I receive questions, what is being done, we can never share that information. So I will say for a first-time violation for a student off campus, when there is, a violation of a noise violation or a nuisance ticket, this is not going to escalate to the level of suspension or expulsion. Everything we do at the university is grounded in education. And this process is education. Our hope is that once we engage with a student for the first time, whether through a meeting or through a letter, we see a behavioral change. The system is progressive. So if it happens again, the ante is upped and we see a progressive disciplinary process that we see increased sanctions for that same type of behavior. But for a first-time violation, this is not something that we're not talking about probation, but for continued violations, we would look at increased sanctions as the behavior is more and more egregious.
Sergeant, I just would like to say that I've talked with several neighbors, not just here, but on another street. And they say, well, I'm afraid to call so many times because now I'm going to be the one who's going to be considered the problem.
Well, I mean, I can't speak for them, Dale, but we don't tell the public that. We don't insinuate that at all. We are here to do a job. If someone calls, we go there. If they call us 4 or 5 times, we go 4 or 5 times. We don't discourage the public from calling us, even if it's a repetitive problem. We encourage, our office wants to work well with the community as well. We're here to help support the community. We're here to help obviously maintain law and order. And it's important for us to kind of work together. And a part of that is from the public's end is to make sure they're notifying us, calling us and telling us where these issues are, because we can't be everywhere all at the same time. So that is not an issue that's ever come from my office, from me or the troopers from my office.
Okay, it's a perception. And
Yep.
I will do what I can to say, no, please go ahead and call. It's not, there's no record to my knowledge of how many times you've called in about what you think is a nuisance violation.
Dale?
Yeah.
If you had a group of neighbors together who wanted to talk about this, I would be willing to come and talk. And my message would be call the police. Let's see if we can talk to the students beforehand, or afterhand, sometime when they're not in the middle of partying. Let's see what we can do in your neighborhood to make this go away.
Right.
Mayor, I'd be
I
happy to
have,
join
I
any-
have
Bill,
gone to
any-
44 when I believe they were just during the daytime sober sign. And then there's no answer. They're inside, but
Mhm.
they don't answer the door. So,
Mhm.
tried several times there, but it is, you had mentioned about 25 houses or something. And it's a shame because it's the minority that is making the reputation for Mansfield that, no, this isn't a place where I would want to live. And we need.
Dale,
to
I'm
find
happy
out
to
how
join
s-
any community meetings. Happy to join any community meetings that if there are any held as well. I actually go to Coventry. I go to Freedom Green with both of their associations, meet with them about how they can, work for students living in the community. Happy to join any meeting.
All right. Thank you.
I'm not even sure we still have a quorum, so we've had so many people drop off. I will tell you, Dale, that I know the mayor and I and Ryan have talked about with our new student rep. Hopefully this is something we can brainstorm with that individual on how to engage the students more directly with some of the leadership. See if we can make any inroads in that regard.
Yeah, I think that the majority of people, as was mentioned, are renting homes for economic reasons. But then there are those, and some of these are landlords that are fraternities and sororities that allow the parties to happen in a residence area because then it doesn't reflect poorly on their established property.
It's not just fraternities and sororities. We've had some problems with a couple of teams as
Mhm.
well.
Right, yes.
And then there are legacy houses, just groups of students who find other people who want to party.
Yeah,
And John's experience with the landlords are experiences that we've had. At one point, many years ago, I tried to get a landlords organization together, and the landlords whose tenants misbehave do not want to be part of an organization that would tell them that they have to manage their tenants.
It's a tough situation.
We actually put together, I mean, literally, I've been working on this since at least 2010. We actually started drafting, putting out sample lease agreements in which landlords would inform their tenants that this behavior could result in eviction. But I don't think anybody ever picked up on those. Again, we have a group of people in town who are very problematic. And the answer is call the police.
Okay. Okay.
Again, just so we can move on, are there any other just updates?
I just want to say we opened our new school, and if anybody from the university would like to take a tour, we'd be happy to do that. This is a teaching and learning building because it's net neutral. The science behind the building, the science and technology behind the building are very interesting, and it's beautiful, and it's something we're really proud of. So be happy to do that for anybody.
Great.
That sounds great. I would love to see it.
Give me a call. We'll set it up.
So there's no other agenda items. Is there a motion to adjourn?
We don't have a quorum. We can't take any action.
I know. Well, Margaret said we have 5 voting members here of 10, so.
I move we adjourn.
So moved. Or I second that.
Second.
All right. Great discussion. Have a good summer.
Dale, call me.
Bye,
I'm
everyone.
serious about being willing to talk
I
to
would love
people.
to talk to you, and I would love to see that facility that you mentioned as well.
You will.
Or give me a
Yeah.
call.
Okay.
Bye.